Yeah.
Grandfather. I believe you a
Okay.
little bit.
So, enabling, codependent. Do we go on patients like this?
Yeah.
What kind of patients are these?
Wives and husbands.
Whiny ones.
Whiny ones. Okay. Can you elaborate on the whiny approach? Mark, thank you.
Enabling behavior. So it could be moms on teenagers, or a parent enabling a child's bad behavior. Could be a significant other enabling substance abuse behavior.
Good one.
So what would you guys define as enabling?
Letting them do something that they shouldn't be doing.
Right. So if it's basically it's something they know is wrong, but yet they're allowing it to happen.
They're
Right?
500 pounds and they can't lose weight because I keep feeding them too much
Because
food.
I keep bringing them fast food, right? Like we have probably 5 to 6 of those in Battalion 2, right? So we have multiple patients like this where it's like you go in the house, you can't make it to the back room without like walking through the little rat maze to get into the back room. And what does the kitchen usually look like?
Spotless.
Does it have dishes in it?
Same thing.
No dishes.
Probably not.
No dishes, right?
Nope.
No dishes. Because why is there no dishes?
It's all
It's
about
They don't
all-
cook.
Because it's all fast food, right? And so there's just giant piles of bags of food that are covered in what? Mold, flies, ants, bugs, things that are running around, right? The creepy crawlies, right? Do we like going into those houses?
No.
Is it going to be easy to get that person out of the back room? Are these people in good health or bad health?
bad health.
So how often do we have to try and get them from the back room out to the front?
Often.
So you have somebody that becomes a cardiac arrest back there.
Oh shit.
And you
Can we
get
take
lost.
out the sidewall?
And you guys are just ambulance people. Non-specialized cutting of houses apart to get them out.
on fire We'll kick the door.
Right? So you have that issue of trying to get the patient out, right? It's not going to be ideal. Are you going to be able to do compressions the entire time getting this person out?
No.
No. Are you going to sacrifice compressions to get this person out at times?
Yes.
Absolutely, right? Are you probably going to hurt your back and hurt your partner or something as you try and get this person out? You may not hurt it, but you can tweak it, right? So you have all kinds of different things where you're just like, everybody reminds, it's like, hey, before you make the move, everybody's like, hey, proper lifting technique, good steps. Because in these houses, what happens as you're heading down the hallway?
You can't
You're
have
gonna
two
trip over
people in
something.
the
Right? Are these usually well put together houses?
No.
Are they usually mobile homes? Usually like less than ½ inch plywood on the floors, and so like you're walking and you like the flow is bowing, and you're just like, oh, please don't fall, please don't fall, please don't fall, right? And so you constantly will get those kinds of things. You're just like, oh, God, please do not let me fall, because especially if you're walking backwards, those are the worst, right? Because there's never enough room for people on both sides, right? So you got somebody at the feet, somebody at the head, right? So as you're walking backwards. What's going to happen if you trip and fall?
I'm gonna fall on
Fall
you.
on you.
You're going to take it, right?
Ouch.
Bad, right? Yeah, so not good. So,
Isn't that what happened to Cody?
Cody? Oh, yes, on with the mannequin, where the mannequin is up on Cody.
I thought that went really well.
Yeah.
Minus the stroke.
Oh, minus the whole missed stroke
That came in
assessment
afterwards.
that you knew you needed to perform stroke assessments going into every scenario that you are ever going to
I
do,
just always would be stroke.
right? Funny thing is my probie yesterday took his final EMS scenario.
There you got it.
No, it was a bradycardia, second degree, type 2 bradycardia, hypotension, powder on his face. The dude looked sick. Like, I walked through the door and, like, in the scenario, I'm like, oh, that guy looks really sick. Like, legit. Like, he put powder on his hands and everything. Like, he looked pale. And then he put little spritzes on his face so he looked like he was sweating. I'm just like,
Man.
I'm like, dude, this guy looks sick. Like you walk into it and he's like, you know who you work with, and you're just like, whoa. Like, you take that little extra moment, like, whoa, there's a knife in your belly. Hey, right?
Like Mon's walking through the door.
Right. It's like, oh. And so, like, this dude looks sick, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching and I'm like, okay, yeah. So he's pacing. He's gave the atropine. This guy's in bad shape, and atropine didn't work, of course. And so the guy still looks bad, and I'm sitting there and he's like, hoo, 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 with because they turned the pacer on, right? And so they're pacing it, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, Proby starts doing a neuro exam on this guy. I'm just like,
Did you think of me?
I did think of you. I'm just like, oh man. I was like, okay, this is good. Like, I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, why in the hell is he doing a neuro exam on this guy? I'm just like, probably because I spent so much time making sure he doesn't miss anything that you do a neuro exam on every patient. Because he had one little thing where, like, it was an accidental, like, arm drop thing, like he wasn't even doing it on purpose, like, as he was moving, he's like, oh, he didn't, like, he had a little weakness on that side. Boom, full neuro exam, top to bottom, the entire thing, and I'm just like, hey, let's fix this thing first. Let's fix this blood pressure first before we do that thing. He's like, I just want to make sure that this isn't a stroke alert. I'm just like, I know, I get what you're doing, I get what you're thinking. I was like, we gotta fix this stuff first, right? And so I was like, I totally know. I was like, neuro exams on everybody, right? Neuro exams.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna
Cardiac
happen.
arrest. Can you?
I know you're dying, but can you smile for me?
We're gonna get this to work somehow.
Can you put your heel
All right, so
to your knee?
how about patients
I know your leg's
that
not
are
attached anymore,
addicts?
but just read that.
Say that again?
Patients that are addicts,
And their significant others an addict. It just makes
or even their significant other's not an addict, but what does their significant other do at times?
Enable them.
Right?
Buys
Enable, good.
buys them drugs or makes excuses for their addiction.
Makes the excuses, right? Looks the other way. Hey, they need that because the doctor won't give them any more pain meds, so now they've started shooting up heroin because they're constantly in pain, right? They do this because they're being wronged some way, right? So they're justifying. They help justify what's going on with that person.
Abusive relationship.
Right? So treat your patient based on your assessment findings, right? Do we assess those people exactly the same as every other time? Yeah?
Yeah.
So what do we do if we got somebody that is a substance abuser, right? And got some diminished LOC,
Stroke.
and we're gonna do a stroke assessment?
Full neuro.
Always.
Good, good.
I will never not.
Noah jump straight to Narcan. What do you guys think?
Their decreased LOC?
Yeah.
Yeah, how decreased is their LOC?
At what point do you make the call to go to Narcan?
It was respiratory.
Depression.
Respiratory compromise.
So what if they're just confused? You okay with that?
Find out.
I'm okay with that with
They're,
the
they're,
narcan.
sat, they're sat in 96%,
Oh, yeah.
slightly confused.
That's their baseline.
Pinpoint pupils. But they're slow and lethargic and not really responding at times to you. Like they're just like, hey, kind of hard to arouse.
CBG.
CBG's 88.
We'll take them to the hospital, but no Narcan.
Whoa, aggression there, Andrew. Yeah,
That's confidence. Confidence.
Hey, we're gonna take you. This person need to go to the hospital.
Why did they call?
Yeah.
I don't know. The neighbor called. They said he wasn't acting right. He was out mowing his lawn naked.
Okay.
What's his baseline?
Baseline
He usually has socks on.
doesn't normally mow his lawn naked.
Usually a sock.
You said that,
He's fully dressed now.
but you said he's a known substance abuser.
Yes.
So my question, if you know him as a known substance abuser, or as the neighbor knows him,
Neighbor knows him.
is what's his baseline for substance abuse?
Don't know.
Is there any paraphernalia or stuff around it?
Nope.
What's his decreased LOC?
Just slow, difficult to arouse-ish. Like
But-
painful stimuli, you talk to him, he'll wake up.
LOC by 4, but just slow and
Yeah,
difficult.
slow with the LOC times 4.
So this sounds like
Yeah,
he's.
and he shoots up heroin all the time.
So it sounds like he's.
Is it a new
normal.
batch of heroin?
Nope. Same
When's-
dealer, same everything.
But it-
When's the
You don't know
last
if
time
it's
he
gonna get worse
used?
or not.
What's
He used it last night.
he used it last night? Okay, so and I'm assuming that like this isn't midnight.
No, this is right now.
This is right now.
He used it last night.
He used it last night at midnight.
So what else is in his system, and why is that heroin
Did
lasting?
anybody else have red flags that just jumped up?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge.
We had this exact patient
Weird.
in the ED.
Weird. Don't you love it when you have like patients that you can apply this information to and be like, oh, I totally understand this
Yeah.
now. Totally makes sense, right? So there's red flags that jump up because does heroin normally last that long?
No.
So but the person's still pinpoint pupils.
Yeah.
So there's something else going on, right? So do we need to investigate more?
Yes.
Oh yeah, so there's a bunch of pill bottles of Oxy in there as well. So, hey, you wouldn't give him a ride with no Narcan. You still on board with that?
Yes.
Everybody on board with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I might give him a little bit of Narcan.
Oh, here we go.
I would
Okay.
too.
I was
Why?
just kidding.
Yeah, why?
What are you gonna accomplish with your Narcan?
You're gonna
It
rule it
sounds
out.
like- I don't know if he's getting worse or not. And also, like, I would only give him a little, like, I want him to,
Just
like,
a bump?
mentate.
Like a
Just a
0.4?
bump.
Just give it just a bump.
Yeah.
Just a bump.
So you need him to mentate.
Because he's technically mentating, just not at a.
12 lead.
a-
Well, alright, so how's his airway? Is he?
Totally fine. He's sat in 96. So, hey, are you letting all of these other knucklehead wannabe paramedics
You can give it as a
alter your
diagnostic.
decision making?
Well, I
Keep
want
going,
to
Noah.
talk to him, so I'm gonna bump him up a little bit.
You can talk to me if you just like talk to me.
Is he talking to you like you're talking to him? Like,
More like
Oh.
I don't
Leave
care
him.
if dealing with him if he's slightly more awake, so I'm gonna give him some Narcan.
Okay, how much Narcan you gonna give him?
4.5.
You know, hold two.
Yeah, you can go
Two.
two.
I'm gonna go cop route. We're gonna go 6.
Yeah, the cops are just gonna go to
Get
about 4,
everything?
call it a day. So what do you think 0.5 is gonna do?
How much?
He might piss him
Upset
off.
him
Even
a
that
little
much
more.
can
You
kick him out
might
and
be
piss him
able
off.
to tell a change in his LOC if drugs were the reason for it.
So he's gonna become a lot more. So 0.5 is actually a pretty decent dose. Like that's kind of what we go with now. Like it drives me bonkers if the cops show up. Yeah, there's a reason why we go lower for people exactly like this, right? So you're a little old lady that takes pain medications on a normal basis. Because if you slam them with Narcan, you're gonna eliminate all of the pain medication. They're on pain meds for a reason. Right. So hey, now you're gonna make Granny suffer
pain.
so that you can talk to her a little better, right? And then patients like this is like, hey, if I can arouse you enough and get enough stimulation out of you that you are breathing, awake, okay, I'm okay with that, right? So this patient I wouldn't give Narcan to, and then I would continue to monitor my SATs, my respiratory rate, and then be guided based on that.
But
Right.
drug addicts can still be sick, so you could give that Narcan as diagnostic.
Yeah,
And
if
then
they're
make sure that
if
they're
their
not.
LOC continues to go down, because you're going to do a full assessment on every patient, right? You're not just going to jump into, yep, this is a drug addiction thing. You're going to do your neuro exam. You're going to do your blood sugar checks. You're going to do your full exam, check your temperatures. You're going to check for sepsis, anything that can cause your altered LOC, right? You're going to go through and you're going to check all those. You're going to check those boxes and eliminate those from your thought process, right? Be like, okay, it's not this, there's no temp, there's no this, okay, sepsis, boom, gone, right?
Sweep your fingers, do what
Yeah,
you
do your
can.
neuro exam, do your full neuro exam,
Is
top
he
to
able
bottom.
to, from what you're telling me, that's
Never
not a
forget.
person who can do a full neuro.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, that's the thing,
Twice.
they could do a neuro exam if you keep them, so I don't know how many people have actually been around, people that are on the edge. So you either have the completely unconscious, unresponsive heroin overdoses that are not breathing. You have the oxy type pain med ones that are, hey, you give them a sternum rub and and they'll follow directions and they'll do everything you want them to, but then they'll just go right back to sleep. But you can keep them awake enough to be like, hey, do this, you continue, like, they're kind of fun because you're constantly, this is where you guys have to be fast before your patient falls back asleep on you. So this is why you're just like, hey, I need you to do this, hey, and you're really loud and kind of in their face a little bit because you're keeping them stimulated doing stuff. It's like, hey, I need you to do this, hey, you're grabbing their hands and you're like really moving around because you're trying to get that stimulation to get them moving, right? To keep them awake to be this. It's like, hey, I need you to hold your hands. Hey, close your eyes, hold your hands up. Hey, hold your hands, hey, hold your hands up. Don't drop those. Yeah? And so eventually they're gonna be there, right? And then you're gonna be like, hey, open your eyes, hey, over here. Right? You're doing this kind of thing and you're kind of playing off of their responsiveness, and you're 90% of the time, you're able to get most of your neuro done. Right? The issue that you're going to have, though, is some of that jerkiness, right? You know how it's probably not going to be smooth, right? But if he can go from here to there and hit that hand, I'm calling that a successful thing. It's when they doing this kind of thing, right? Trying to hit him, it's like, okay, we're starting to create those little red flags. It's be like, okay, can't do that. Let me try a different one. Let me try another one. And as I'm building that case, it's like, well, I couldn't do that one either, right? So then you're playing multiple things, and then if you have 4 or 5 of those things that he can't do, it's like, okay, well, okay. Now I might start thinking, it's like, okay, if this person's stroking, I need a better LOC, right? Boom, in comes Noah. He's like, here I come to save the day, right? Because what's that going to do for you?
And then
It was
really
better
agitated
LOC with
ketamine.
Right. So then we give them the Narcan, do the neuro exam. They're all wound up. They're angry. They're frustrated. And then you're just like, hey, ketamine, good night, right? Boom, you're back out, right? So
Assessment done.
Yeah,
Move on with
yeah,
life.
yeah, boom. You just do, right? So you're doing one, you're doing the other, right? So that's the kind of thing that you're going to judge. It's like if you're on the fence of whether or not, hey, this person may be a stroke alert, it's like, okay, I need to wake you up a little more to be able to get a little bit of clarification on it. Does that make sense? So if there's nothing that's presenting abnormally, I'm just going to let them ride, monitor their stats, monitor their airway, respiratory rate, and transport them. I'm going to do as much of my neuro as I can, though. I'm going to rule out my sepsis, rule out all the other altered LOC stuff. Okay. Cool. All right. Does everybody who taking the ambulance need to go by ambulance?
No.
To the ER. Do they need to go to the ER?
No.
Let's
Sometimes.
just say some of the Station 2 district, 6:50 to 7:50 in the morning calls every single morning. It's time to wake up at the mission and kicking you out. So what suddenly happens?
I don't think.
Oh, boom, and they pass out, right? They have a syncable from a chair onto a bench. They're like, oh, I passed out. I mean, yeah, and with the pillow, right? Or they're just like,
Can I get a blanket?
or they won't get out of bed and they'll be like, oh, I'm too weak to get out of bed. It's like, oh, okay, well, what do you need?
This cattle
It's like,
prod you.
oh, I need to go to the hospital. It's like, okay, well, and we do our full exam, we do our full neuro, check them out perfectly. And then we go to stand them up, and we're like, hey, we need you to walk over here. And it's like, boop, ba-doop, ba-doo. And they walk all the way over there, and it's like, yeah, you suck. You're doing, right? So there'll be times where it's just to be like, hey, man, I'm going to take you to the hospital, right? I'm totally cool with that. But I need to know something. Do you really have chest pain, or are you just saying that to get you to the hospital? I was like, because if you really have chest pain, then I got to do these extra tests on you. If you don't, I'm totally cool with it. I mean, we're going to take you anyways. I just need to know whether or not I got to do one or the other. And they're like, yeah, no, I'm just cold and want something to eat. It's like, all right, cool, right? I was like, I'm still taking you to the hospital. You want to go to the hospital? I'm going to take you to the hospital.
What does that here report
What's a
sound like?
radio report?
Yes.
We texted in. There's no sarcasm in texts, we found out. Granted, I have not done the Pulsera yet, but with mine, it's patient initially complained of chest pain. When asked about the chest pain, he stated he just needed warmth and food. Patient denies chest pain at this time. And then you get this.
Do you want finals?
B. So confirming no chest pain? That's affirmative. No chest pain. Patient wants food and warmth. B. Is this patient triage appropriate? Affirmative. I'm like, we can drop them off at the front door even if you want. It doesn't really matter to us because they want to go to the hospital. So it's up to you guys where you put them, right? So there are going to be those kinds of patients, right? So you're going to have those patients that, hey, not everybody needs medical treatment. Some of them just need a ride, right? Poor nutrition. Do we go on those a lot? Right? How do we manage poor nutrition?
Well, if their CPG is that low, then it's D50.
Overall,
That low.
general
Yeah, I
portrait
mean,
nutrition.
yeah.
I mean, that's
If it's altered LOC,
Well, it depends.
then
So when do we stop taking care of our patient?
when we drop them off at the
So
ER.
theoretically, you take them to the
I
hospital
love theoreticals.
and they get in touch with some kind of work, like a social
Social worker.
worker or something, and then they get their problem fixed that way.
Yeah,
That's the best case
works
scenario.
every time, right?
Well,
Yeah, no. Social workers.
that's the hope.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? And so there are times where certain patients you will legitimately follow up with. Like, be like, hey man, what's your plan? What's your plan when you're done here, right? Like, you'll legitimately help them with additional resources. Like, hey, like every person that I take from the mission, I ask them where they're from, where they came from originally, and what brought them to Eugene, right? Just because I'm curious, right? I just like to know about people that we're taking care of, right? Most of the people, hey, just came in on the bus, I heard there's a lot of resources. I'm like, yeah, you're right. There are a lot of resources. Yeah, right? But then it's like, you realize that there's way better resources in Salem and Portland, right? And they're farther away from the Whitaker district, right? No, I don't say that. But most of the people come from like Southern California. I'm like, you realize it's way warmer down there, right? I'm like, this is like freezing cold. We have alleyways and it's cold and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, we got Egan warming centers that are open like 4 days out of the year.
They don't have
Warm alleyways, that's the thing. It's the warm versus cold alleyways, right? And so just getting to know those people and be like, hey, what's your plan, man? Like, do you have a plan? Like, a lot of times we'll go to the bus station, people just get off the bus and they're like, dude, yeah, I had chest pain on the bus, like legitimate medical thing, because they've been on the bus for 4 days, and they knew they were trying to get to Eugene, and they were just having this chest pain over and over and over, and they're like, hey, what do I do now that I'm here? I'm like, well, what was your plan gonna be? They're like, well, I'm trying to get down to here. And it's like, well, I don't think you're gonna get there right away, so hey, here are a couple options for you. You got the mission, you got looking glass, you got all kinds of different things depending on who you are, what age you are. We frequently will get a lot of kids that come through, runaways, and we have a lot of resources for those kids as well. And so, yes, I have a lot of time where I talk about the calls that we go on, and I go on a lot of calls with this type of population, but I actually care about a lot of the patients where I'm just like, hey, what's your plan? And I try and hook them up, make sure that they have the resources so that we don't see them again, right? That's ultimately the end goal. Is what you don't want to do is you don't want to go on certain people over and over and over. Like we have 3. Like we were sitting at the table last night and we just did a point and we all knew the first name of who people were pointing at just from the location from the dinner table. We're like, oh hey, remember when we go? And everybody's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, and what about the drunk lady over here? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, and then we had, and then they're like, ah, blah, 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 right? So we had a name for all 3 of them, right? And we're just like, when you have those kinds of patients, then it's like, you start trying to get social workers involved. I got one dude that, my engineer, called the guy a psychiatrist. Be like, this guy needs Ativan again. Give it to him. We're seeing him every day. Sometimes 3 to 4 times a day. And so it's just like, sometimes it's not just, hey, let's take him to the hospital, then we're free and clear, right? Because you're going to see him tomorrow. So sometimes you got to go.
Transport every time?
Every time.
I'll paint the
3 times a day, you went home immediately?
Yeah, dude. Well, actually, so what normally happens, and so I've since changed the way we do things, is so we'll go on him early in the day, and we'll be like, dude, you don't need to go to the hospital, you just got your anxiety. He's like, you're right, I don't. We're like, okay. And we take his blood pressure machine and we throw it away, because he reads it and he's just like, oh, it's 140/80. It's like, dude, that's totally fine, right? It's like, it's okay. It's like, you know, guys, I'm just feeling really stressed out. And this is the guy that talked about jumping in front of the bus at times, right? So we go on this dude every single day. And so it gets to that point where I'm just like, okay, if we don't transport him early in the day, we go on him at 3 o'clock in the morning. So what do I want to do? I'm just like, no, we're going to transport him early in the day so we don't go see him at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? So it becomes this whole game, scheming, trying to figure it out. And then finally we got to the point I'm just like, dude, all right, this is not working. Like, we were taking an ALS ambulance out of the system. We need to figure out a good process for you. Let's talk to your psychiatrist. Get this figured out. We didn't see him for a month and a half.
So you have like firemen?
No.
You're just paying for?
No. Dude, people don't pay for an ambulance. I mean, a lot of the population will pay that have insurance and stuff like that, but we spend a lot of time with non-paying patrons.
Non-paying customers?
Non-paying patrons. And so, yeah, so basically it's an attempt to try and get patients like that some sort of plan in the long term. So. Hey, Derek. I think Derek's going to talk to you guys about
stuff.
the birds and the bees.